Hello, U.S. history students. This is a quick review of the War of 1812 and PBS video quiz. So the causes and consequences of the war are pretty clearly explained on the study guide, so I'm not going to go over those here. If you have questions about that, feel free to email me about those. But I'm just going to jump in with number 3 here. And it asked you to describe Jefferson's embargo of 1807, what was the problem, and what was his proposed solution, and what actually resulted. So here's the problem. Great Britain and France were bullying U.S. ships. And instead of going to war, Jefferson was looking for something less profound than that. And so he says, let's cut off trade with Great Britain and France. And the idea is that he's going to convince Great Britain and France to stop bullying U.S. ships because they care about commerce with the U.S. It turns out that Great Britain and France aren't impacted very much and don't care that much and doesn't really have an impact on them. Who the embargo does have an impact on is merchants within the United States. And our gross national product goes down 5%. And our exports plunge by about $80 million. So not one of Jefferson's better moments. So the next question asked who the war hawks were. Some people were confused and thought those were Native Americans. They are U.S. congressmen who wanted war. That's where the term comes from. Sort of, if people refer to hawks and doves, doves want peace and hawks want war. And these congressmen particularly wanted to take land in Florida from Spain and in Canada from Great Britain. These congressmen are mainly from the South and the West of the United States, and 2 examples of war hawks would be Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun. Next question, who was Tecumseh? Just saying he's a Native American leader was not good enough. You should say he was a Native leader. Give us a sense of where in the country he was. So in Indiana and the Great Lakes region. And how we compared him to Patrick Henry and what made him so impressive is that he was able to get his a number of different tribes to unify, even though there was not any imminent danger in the Great Lakes region. But he's trying to say, hey, the Americans are going to be a problem for us. Let's unify against a common enemy. The next ones were pretty basic. The president is James Madison. The War of 1812 is often referred to as Mr. Madison's War. And the party that opposed the War of 1812 is the Federalist Party, and they sort of fall apart because of their opposition to the war. They come out as being against it, and of course the war, I wouldn't say it goes great, but with the Battle of New Orleans, it goes pretty well, and they are made to look sort of foolish. And then the Federalist Party shortly thereafter falls apart. The next question was about that. What was the Hartford Convention? For honors folks, it was connect the Hartford Convention to the Battle of New Orleans. But the essence of the question is that the Hartford Convention was a group of Federalists. Hang on, let me write this out here. So again, this is a meeting of Federalists who met in Hartford, Connecticut just as the war was ending. So they're in December of 1814 to January 1815 to talk about how the war was going badly. And when they met, they also proposed some constitutional amendments, including rotating who could be president and needing a 2/3 vote for war. Some radical Federalists were talking about seceding from the Union, but most of them were just talking about how the war was not going well, and here's how we should change the Constitution to fix things in the future. But then the Battle of New Orleans happens, and they are made to look pretty foolish because the country is very rah-rah, go Andrew Jackson, as a result of that battle, the Battle of New Orleans. What is the elastic clause? It's also known as the necessary and proper clause, and that's a part of the Constitution that allows Congress to make laws that aren't specified in the Constitution. Some examples would be the purchase of the Louisiana Territory and chartering a national bank. So that's expanding federal power. What was the cotton gin? It was an invention made by Eli Whitney that separated the seeds from the cotton. From the cotton. It makes it much more profitable to grow cotton, and that some people were saying how that made it easier for slaves, and not really. The picking of cotton is still pretty hard work, but now we can actually make money off doing it. And so the key of the cotton gin is it leads to an increase in demand for slaves, and that's what leads us to what's called the second Middle Passage, where slaves are moved from the South to the Deep South so that they can work on cotton plantations. And then finally, what was Forks of the Road in Natchez, Mississippi? It was the second largest slave market in the U.S. The biggest was in New Orleans. It's near the Mississippi River and roads. That's why it's called Forks of the Road. And so you can move slaves to wherever it is their destination is. And the video that we saw compared it to a Costco or Walmart, where you could purchase different specialty slaves that you might need. So those are the answers to the quiz. And again, if you have questions about the causes or the consequences section, that's spelled out pretty clearly in the study guide, and we talked about it a bunch in class. But if you do have questions, feel free to email me. All right, I look forward to seeing your corrections if you do them. Take care.